Good evening. This is like my third attempt. I guess that's what I get for trying to do this at work. I do come in early, so no, I'm not sliding off. Anyway, I want to talk about biases. I've been traveling a lot lately and living in hotels and stuff, and so it gave me a lot of time to look at the poem. And as I said in my last video, I just, some of the poems seem so forced and so convoluted and so, I don't know. And then when you put that together with him taking 15 years to write it, I just thought there's got to be some kind of code in this poem. And so I have like 10 different major codes that are like the common codes, and I have ways of looking for signs that one of those codes are in there, and I could not find any of these signs. He does say there's a keyword or a word that is key, and so that was another thing that got me thinking about, there might be a code in here. So, and this is what I was working on in the hotel room. So here's the poem, and then I charted out a few things. I charted out a few other things. I made other things. These are things I would use to see if there's other codes in there, and then a lot of notes at the bottom. I played a lot with the Playfair cipher because that's one that would need a key. I tried other things. If it's there, I didn't crack it. So, and it's not to say, I mean, you could be the best cracker in the world and miss something in the simplest things. And I might be overthinking it. It might be something simpler, but I just went through. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours on that and did not find anything. And I didn't really expect to. Again, my thought process and my problem solving process is to work through an idea, no matter how silly it is, and work it through till it's been completely eliminated. I still don't think this is completely eliminated. I still think there's something about the way he words things that he had to fit. And like I said, to Terry Scant, he could have said "hurry up," and it would have had the same number of syllables and stuff. But to say he used a phrase that I tried googling it. I even went to that one site that like links words together. Could not find anywhere where Terry Scant was a phrase anyone had ever used before. So he coined a phrase. But going through that, I don't know how to put this without giving things away, but I did have another method I was using. I call it the jelly bean method. And I came up with a place where everything fits the poem. And do I believe it's the right spot? I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it still. I don't know. I think it has a good chance of being the right place. I do know it's a place where people have searched before. I do know it's a place that's been out there on forums and things. And I don't know. Everything just fits so perfectly. And so when I'm looking at other ideas, because I lived in Colorado, and like you look at places like Steamboat Springs and places where there's hot springs in Colorado, and you're like, okay, that's where there's some warm water. And I'm just like, every time I look at someplace like that, it's like half-hearted. And when I see other people come up with, trying to explain where they think it is, and I'm like, yeah, but this doesn't fit, and that doesn't quite fit, and they're forcing this, and I believe it's going to be like, what's a good way to put it? It's going to fit very smooth. It's going to be like a zipper. It's just going to be nice and smooth. If you have to yank it, if you have to manipulate it, if you have to do something, I don't think that would be the right solve. And I could be wrong. Like I said, Forrest Fenn is a treasure hunter, but he's not an armchair treasure hunter. So who knows, like, what he did when he created this poem, or what his thought process was. The remark was made, he wrote the poem for one person, and that was him. And he understands it, but that doesn't mean anybody else understands it. So these are kind of little things I think about. But it's that bias. It's that, like, once you get a solve, it's hard to think about, and it's hard to consider other people solve it. It's hard to break away from that. But something happened the other day that got me really excited. And I've mentioned this before, but I love cemeteries, and I love Google Maps because I'll zoom in to about like a 900-foot one screen is 900 feet. I think that's the most I can zoom in. It's like you can zoom in further, but then you lose detail. So when I'm bored, or like if I'm laying in bed and can't sleep, my computer is like on the desk next to my bed, so I can flip the monitor around. It's on an arm, and I swing it right out over my face when I'm in bed. And I'll sit there and I'll zoom in, and I can scroll like across. I'll do a straight line across the whole state, looking for signs of unlabeled cemeteries. And I have found a few, and it's really interesting. I found one in Kansas that actually the bushes in the cemetery spelled out a word. And it was so fascinating. I actually budgeted a trip, and I drove out there, and I've actually talked to like the local historian and stuff, and he never knew it was there. We talked to the family that owned the land. They didn't know it was there. Nobody knows who spelled this word out in this cemetery. And it's like little mysteries like that. And I would have never found that had I not been zoomed in to 900 feet and just scrolling across the state of Kansas. And I was going back and forth across the state of Kansas. But like, you spot things like that. And sometimes, like if I'm thinking, okay, I got nothing to do this weekend, I have a lot of time, I have a tank full of gas, I'll zoom in and I'll find something that I can't explain. I'll be like, okay, that's my mission this weekend. Drive to that spot, figure out what that is. Just, even if it's something stupid like somebody's mailbox, and it's been that before. And, so I'm no stranger to zooming in. So when I had this solve, I mean, I must have did it 50 times. I would zoom in maybe a mile above it and go back and forth across, come down. I'm like, oh, it still fits. This still fits. And it doesn't just fit the poem. It fits things like that he said. Fits the parts of the story where he drove to it and he walked twice. And I'm like, this all fits. 80-year-old man can do this. Everything. Just, there's a parking lot. There's a trail. There's places where you can go off the trail. It's wooded. Everything fits. So it's like, trying to get away from that is hard to do. And like I said, I know people have been here before. I know people have searched this area before. But something happened that got me really excited. So I'm scrolling across this area like about 2 or 3 days ago, and there was something new. And they're not very often that you find something new on Google Maps. Every once in a while I'll update it because, they got new satellite imagery or something. Or like in the case of my hometown here in Mason City, Iowa, for the longest time, there was no Street View in Mason City, Iowa. And one day I went on and like half the streets had Street View. So I'm like, oh, there must have been a Google car. Oh, speaking of which, I was in Tennessee and I pulled up next to an Apple car with the Apple mapping. So they must have been doing their version of Street View. And I drove, and I wasn't trying to do that. We just happened to be going in the same direction. So I was in a rental car, and I'm like, oh, why couldn't I be in my own car when this happened? So, yeah, I drove next. So I don't know what Apple's version of Street View is, but I'm going to be in like a mile of that. But anyway, I digress. I found something new. Now, in Apple Maps, some people can take a picture and pinpoint it on the map and then upload the picture and be like, here's a picture of this area. And that shows up as a blue dot on the map. So I'm scrolling like I did 100 times before, and there's this blue dot. And I'm like, oh, a blue dot. What the hell? Never, and I know I would have seen that before because I've done the Street View and everything of this whole area. And this was new. So I go into it, and it was like, it wasn't where my solve was. It was probably 500 feet from where my solve was. Blue dot, and I go in there, and it's where two rivers come together. And it must have been a recent picture because there's a little bit of snow on the ground, and one river is just steaming. And I know that when it's cold out, it doesn't take much for warm water to steam. The other river had no steam at all. And there was a guy standing in the confluence, that's where the two streams mix and meet. And he's standing there, and he's in his swimsuit, and he's got his hands up in the air. Of course, there's like snow on the ground and stuff. So, it's not swimming weather, but he's standing like waist deep in the water with his hands up in the air, and the caption said, "Just right." And that, I realized that's where warm waters are meeting cold waters. That's where the warm waters would end. That was the start of my solve. I was probably 50 feet off of that, because there's other places where rivers join that, but like that was like the nail in the coffin for me. And so I'd already planned on going. I keep watching these cams in the area to see how much snow there is, but I'm going to go as soon as I can. I talked to some lawyers because there's some money issues, and so like my next 2 or 3 paychecks are just being sucked dry with these lawyers. And then my car threw a strut, so I got a broken strut on my car that I got to get fixed. And I know it's not going to be inexpensive, and then maybe a tune-up. So once I get those out of the way, I'm going to look at my schedule and say, I need a week to do this. And the thing is, I was watching videos, and I do this all the time. I'll try to find new videos that I haven't seen before of hunters looking for forest fen treasures, because that's part of the jelly bean method. And I noticed something about these videos. And one of the ones that kind of triggered this for me was I've been following this BuzzFeed channel called, it's up on my screen, Unsolved. And they do unsolved paranormal, where they hunt for ghosts. They do unsolved true crimes, where they examine old missing person cases and old murders and stuff. They have a few other areas that they talk about, but it's these 2 guys, and they're a riot. I love them. I'd always thought if I was ever going to do a paranormal channel, you picture it in my head how it was going to be, and that is like exactly it. They exactly got my idea how if I were going to do a paranormal show, they are doing that show that I thought of. So I love these guys. I've been watching them, because I work nights, and I put it on just to have background noise. And I was kind of scrolling through the channel because they just got hundreds and hundreds of videos. I saw that they did a forest fen episode, so this is cool. And I watched them, and naturally, they had their solve just north in New Mexico. They had logical reason, and again, everything fits. And when you get that, everything fits in your head, it's hard to erase that. So like everything fit, and as he walked through his solve, I'm like, yeah, everything fits. The only thing that didn't do it for me was he was in this area where there was a lot of fallen trees. And I know from hiking in various places, like sometimes they'll come through and they'll try to clear that out. And if he hit it in a place that's might get cleared out, I just think that's not a good place to hide it. And if they do come and clear it out, they could have easily dragged the box 100 feet and you would have never known it. That happened with Michael Stather in his hunt. He put his golden token in a tree, and people went there and they couldn't find it. And this was like the last thing, they found the first 12 tokens. This was the 13th token. And no one could find it, and it come to find out that tree had been cut down. He'd hidden it in a tree, and trees are not permanent. They're not, at most, they're going to live 100 years. And this tree was cut down, and I mean like hundreds and hundreds of people had gone to this spot because people were like, this has to be it, and no one could find it, and people were like, well, maybe I can spot something they can't spot. And, so literally hundreds of people are going to the spot. And the person who found it was like leaving, and they saw something in the mud, like down the road, and it was the token. So the tree obviously been cut down. And that was another interruption, but I'm going to try and continue and meld these two together. Normally the cleaning crew is not here at night, and tonight they've come in here several times. But anyway, the tree was cut down. They hauled the logs out, and luckily the token had fallen out on the road leaving the park, and that's where someone found it. And that's like a 1 in a million chance, and especially when you're talking about hundreds of people have already gone there. Rain, mud, it was in the mud. It's just incredible. So when I was looking at the area where this BuzzFeed group went, cut down trees, you could hardly walk off the trail. It was, it just didn't seem like the right spot. It didn't look like a spot where you would hide anything. And of course they did that, and then they left. And that's what I'm seeing in a lot of videos. Like people will go and they'll spend a day and they'll hike around and, oh no, this isn't where I thought it was, and they left. And then I was reading, like in my, like I said, the place where I think it is, and the place where I want to put boots on the ground, other people have gone there, and I read their accounts, and I read the way they did things, and I'm like, but they didn't do this. That's part of the poem when they didn't do this, or they went there, they were there for an hour and they left. And I know, when I was doing my treasure hunt, I had gone with my son and we searched for hours. And, we had given up, and it was my son that said, I want to go look one more time. And he went and looked, and that's when he found it. So I don't think if you go and look one time, that's enough. And when I read other people's accounts, and I'm like, they didn't, as far as I could tell, nobody's looked where I want to look in this area. So I'm still hopeful that maybe I can spot something new if there is indeed anything there. But seeing this picture, this brand new picture, this guy in the water going, woo, just right, because it's where the warm water is and the cold water. Maybe the warm water was too warm and the cold water was too cold, but where they were mixing, it was just right. And that just made me go, oh, I am going there now. I am going there. And I don't know this guy. I don't think he was a treasure hunter or anything, but just this old man in the water. But that sealed the deal for me. So yeah, I will put boots in the ground as soon as I think. And again, and this was brought up. I was watching the live K-Pro and Kalazar's chat tonight on YouTube, and this was brought up about hunting in the wintertime and how the winter is the doldrums. And someone had mentioned that Forrest had said it could be found in the wintertime if you know exactly where to look. And that made me think, if the chest is on the ground, it's between some rocks or in a crevice or something, yeah, it could get covered with snow. But I think the blaze, because the blaze is like the last thing you find. If you find the blaze, you're supposed to look quickly down. The blaze, I think, is up somewhere where you can see it in the wintertime. If it's on the side of a tree, if it's on, who knows what, a post or something, because I think the blaze is a trail marker. It's going to be something that marks, it might be on a rock, but it's got a marker of some sort, because he blazed the trail. And I think that marker is visible year round. That's just my belief. So I think if you find the marker, you can go and just maybe dig around the snow, maybe bring, I have a metal detector. So I'm going to go as soon as possible, whether or not there is snow on the ground, just put it that way. And that's how excited I am about this. So am I certain I'm going to find something? I don't know. Probably not. I don't have high hopes. I don't think this is the right one. Like I said, other people have gone there too, but I got to get it out of my system. And if nothing else, I love this area. I like to drive off the highway, and one time driving back from Colorado, I had driven up in that area. And then when I had a vision quest several years ago where I came into a large sum of money and I visited every state west of the Mississippi, and that took me 30 days. And in that 30 days, it was freaking amazing. It was just I call it my vision quest, because I was just I'm just going to go and I'm just going to see things, and I'm not going to stay on the highway. And I saw some things that would I can't even describe. And I just loved it, and I'd gone through that area on that vision quest, and this is one of I just love this area, and so I'm going to go back, and if nothing else, I'm just going to do some stargazing and some car camping, and I have a Honda Element, and a Honda Element, a lot of people call it a micro camper. It was designed for camping. Everything about it was designed for camping. You can spray the inside with water. The top comes off. The doors open up, to open up the whole side of the vehicle. The seats lay flat to make a bed. It's just, I love my car. And I've only modified it a little, but If I bring, the last time when I did my Valentine Goose voyage, which is what this channel is named after, I brought this futon. I laid the seats flat and I put the futon down, and it was just the perfect traveling around by yourself camper type vehicle, and I just loved it. And so I'll do something like that again, and I will not spend a day there. I will spend a week there, and I will travel the spot over and over again, because I think that's where some people fall short. They'll go to a spot, they'll spend the day there, and they'll give up and go home. And I know a lot of people, me too, it's time constraints, it's needs, you got to get your shower and your bath in, and if you're not staying in a nearby hotel or something, it's going to be miserable. But I do think if you go there once and you don't find it, it's worth going back a second time. And like I said, I would spend a day there at least, going over it several times, parking in the parking lot, walking. I would go back and forth several times. Of course, the days are shorter because it's winter time, but and then go back the next day, try it again, try it something different, turn left when you get straight. But yeah, everything fits, and I'm going to do this. And yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say. I had fun. I didn't make a video last 3 or 4 weeks. Like I said, I've been on the road. I traveled at night mostly, so sometimes when I do the video in the car, if it's nighttime, you don't see anything, and then I was like, no, this ain't working. I did start one about how these things bring people together, because I really believe that's true, and I hope my hump brings people together. Oops. But yeah, it's like, gotta do it, and you gotta do it over and over again. I just, seeing that guy in the water was like, this is where my start was. And my start was kind of not linked to that, but when I saw that, I was like, that's where it is. That's where Warm Waters halt. And just out of the blue, this dot appeared, and it's in the middle of nowhere, but there's a road, and it's in the area he talked about. It's in a beautiful area. There's a canyon. I mean, it's got everything. So, additional note, I do believe the first 2 or 3 clues are all you're going to find on the map. I don't think you're going to find anything. You're not going to find the trail. You're not going to find the blaze. You're not going to find. You might not even find the home brown. But everything fits the first part, anyways. So. Yeah, that was my video for tonight. I thought I'd get that over with before work starts, and hopefully before the cleaning crew comes in for a 4th time. I'm going to try and stitch these 2 videos together. I did that before, but I think it was hard on my phone. But yeah, I'm Starthinker. Go ahead, look on Starthinker on Amazon Books. My books are available anywhere, by the way. I did notice, because I look at a chart for sales, and I did notice somebody bought my book from Barnes & Noble, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And I've sold books in Germany and Belgium, which is really weird. Like, who the hell is buying my book in Germany? Or Belgium, for that matter. I sold a couple in England, which is kind of cool. It's just kind of neat looking at it and saying, oh, wow, that's something I did. And I'm working on another one. I'm working on one called The Christmas Ghost. That's my working title. I don't know if that's going to stay that way. But I've been watching so many paranormal videos, and I'm like, what would I do if I was a paranormal investigator? So I'm writing this book from the point of view of someone, it's of course, I like to write comedy, so it's got comedy in it. But it's about a guy who moves into a haunted house, and he didn't know it was haunted, but apparently it was like famously haunted, so he keeps getting these crews showing up to his house saying, can we sleep in your house for a night? And he gets frustrated with this. So it's kind of a different take on the paranormal video, paranormal story. So that's going to be my next project that I work on. But anyway, look for my book. Look for Randy Pischel. Look for Starthinker. I do have other YouTube channels. I don't try to make money on them, so I'm never going to ask for a subscription or anything like that. But I do them for fun. I do have a channel. Well, if it's found I'll be happy with it. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'm going to try and stitch these two together and get them uploaded.